Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Well, a follower of mine posted this particular story about two inmates at an all-women's New Jersey prison are pregnant after both had sex with the same transgendered inmate. After local ACLU Chapter 1 battle to house trans inmates in women's prison. Now, this particular story got a lot of people who were just with amazement, bewilderment, and wonder. And they were just perplexed and puzzled as to how this can possibly happen. They were perplexed as to how can a transgender inmate get a female pregnant? So I decided to investigate this particular story, to look into it, to see if there was some truth to the story. Because initially it was picked up by the Daily Mail. Now we know that the Daily Mail can be overly sensationalistic with their tales. Sensationalism sells, so they're not above, lying, or I could say stretching the truth, or over-exaggerating. So as I looked into it, yes, it was a true story. There was an ACLU chapter that did fight to get transgendered inmates into that particular prison facility. There is a prison facility called Etna Mahan, or Etna Man, however that's pronounced. So there is validity because more than one source picked up the story. So as I looked into the story, I wanted to get just a better grip on it. So two pregnant women are housed at the embattled Etna Man Correctional Facility in Clinton. That's in New Jersey. Which New Jersey governor announced plans to close. So apparently it had a bunch of problems there, and it is planned to be closed up. Now let's go on. It is unclear if the women had sex with the same transgendered woman. Etna Man houses 27 transgendered prisoners and over 800 cisgender women. I mean straight women, or women who identify as straight, or biological women. Now, the correctional facility began to house inmates by gender identity last year after reaching a settlement in a lawsuit brought by a trans woman in the ACLU. In the man, the only women's prison in the state does not require transgender inmates to proceed with the reassignment surgery in order to be housed. Now that's extremely important to what I'm going to add to this story. So people who are wondering how this can happen, how this can come about, how it can occur, it's very simple biology. And that biology has to do with the body functions, hormones, such forth. But I think one thing that people tend to mistake is that they get gender identity mixed up with sexual identity. Gender identity and sexual identity are completely two different things. Now, this is a picture of Caitlyn Jenner. But before Caitlyn Jenner, we know that she was once Bruce Jenner. And I want you to take a look at this.
A baby girl in November. We're doing great. Aren't we, honey?
Wonderful, wonderful. We had everything done. We had all our amnio done. We've gotten over every hurdle.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Except for what color hair she's going to have.
Yeah, that's the only thing we have left now. Is the color of her hair.
Yeah.
We're hoping for dark hair.
A brunette.
A brunette. Names. Oh my gosh.
I like that.
You know what? We've got so many names, and we'd like the people from Extra, okay, to write in to Extra and find out what great names.
To name
Something
baby
Jenner.
Jenner.
So there you see Caitlyn when she was married to Kris Jenner, and the baby that they were obviously talking about was either Kylie or Kendall. So we clearly see that Caitlyn was Bruce. I'm going to try to make this very simple. By the way, Bruce used to be one of my childhood idols. I remember his whole thing with winning the decathlon in the 1976 Olympics, him being on the Wheaties box and so forth, and him being an actor after that. So we now know that Bruce Jenner has now transitioned to Caitlyn Jenner. So let me explain this to you, and why I chose Bruce. Because number one, Caitlyn Jenner. Because number one, she's world famous. And I think that it can be more relatable, perhaps. But I will say this much. As you've seen with Kris Jenner, before Caitlyn's transition, she was identified, and probably identified, as a heterosexual male who was able to get a female pregnant. Now, Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner, okay, has made the transition to Caitlyn Jenner. Okay, Caitlyn Jenner, as of right now, identifies as a woman. However, while her gender identity may have changed, her sexual identity is still the same. Because Caitlyn Jenner, even as a woman, still prefers other women. So even amongst transgendered people, you have those who are gay, who are lesbian, who are bisexual, and who are questioning. That's the reason why I disagree with the whole movement that a lot of gay men were trying to take underway about 5-6 years ago, where they wanted to take the T out because they claimed that it did not belong to LBGT. Because what they failed to realize is that transgendered people do belong there. And getting back to the Caitlyn Jenner thing here, the thing about this is that while there are some transsexuals who are striving for and who are wanting the full transition, you have to understand that there are many who are happy with partial transitioning. Some will like, to have just their upper body done. Upper body meaning face, meaning breast. And others are still happy with just having their lower genitalia remain the same, even while they still identify as female. Now, with that being said, these prisoners are the correctional officers or jailers, who, however you want to call them, however they call themselves, are their job titles. They most likely identified as lesbian. So outwardly, facially, they probably connected to the inmates as women. No doubt, and that led to some type of friendship, which led to a tryst eventually. And what happened was that these inmates still had the lower extremities of men. And with those lower extremities, they were able to work it. And many of the transitioning happens to do with hormonal intake. Now, based upon, I guess, the level of hormones you take and how they react to different people, which it could be differently, a lot of men can still function. Or I should say, a lot of transsexuals, that part of the anatomy can still function before their partial transitioning. So therefore, they would have no problem with sex or getting a female pregnant. So this story is not really strange or anything way out there. I do believe that a lot of times that we're dealing with our own preconceived notions. We're dealing with our own prejudices. We're dealing with things brought on and our beliefs by religion. We're dealing with, there are certain groups of people that we can be amused by, laugh at, joke at. And basically, we're dealing with ignorance on the topic. So there's just a combination of things which are thrown in. And we're also dealing with sensationalism by the news media, because this is pretty much how they work. So hopefully that helps add a bit of light to this particular topic. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you all beyond and through.